Tape's running.
Just, I'll put some of this stuff on here, and you can then, so you'll have some more of it to.
Good afternoon. Once again, this is Bruce Warren. I'm from the BCI Armory, and we're located in southern Lower Michigan in East Leroy. It's a suburb of Battle Creek. Today we're going to go through a couple of things that I'm going to do to a weapon to further customize it. This particular gun belongs to my cameraman and shooting partner, Bill Palmer. He had it built about 5 years ago, and it's worked out real well up until now. He's decided to add a few more custom touches to it, and then possibly sell it later this summer, depending on how his year is. So what I'd like to do is show you the gun and some of the changes we're going to make to it. As you can see, it's pretty much customized now. This was his second chance pin gun. I used it 3 years ago and finished third in the Winchester shoot-offs. Since then I've built him another gun. He's been shooting at extensively, and this is kind of set in the closet. So we're going to tune it up a little bit and make it a little bit fancier. Now you'll notice it already has a Wilson barrel and comp on it. We're not going to change that. It's still shooting well, and we're going to keep it the way it is. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to get rid of this old front sight that was on here. We're just going to pop that right out, and it'll leave a little tiny hole in the top of the slide, but that's better than this sharp-edged piece of steel here. One of the major changes we're going to make is we're going to cut out this portion of the grip frame right here. What we're going to do, we're going to raise that up so that the hand will slide up further onto the weapon itself. Let me show you an example. This weapon right here. Notice how this is cut out so much higher. Okay. One of the other things we're going to do is we're going to take this grip tape off. Now this was installed on here so that you can cock the slide easier than using the rear, primarily because this guard makes it difficult to grab the slide, so it grabs it from the front. So what we're going to do is we're going to peel this off, and I think what you'll notice is a lot of bluing missing. Now what we're going to try to do is maintain the angle and the style of the serrations on the rear, try to match them. We're going to try to match the serrations on the rear of the slide, and we're going to reproduce them here on the front. Once we've done that, and we've recut the grip frame here, and we do a little trigger work. Right now the trigger is set at about 4.5 pounds, which is good for a carry weapon, but it's not the best for a competition weapon. We're going to redo the trigger on that, see if we can't get it back down to where it belongs for matches. One of the other items we're going to do is we're going to serrate the rear of the slide here. Now you'll notice that this is smooth. As compared to the serrations on the back of this one. Now this cuts down on glare somewhat, but mostly it's just for decoration and looks pretty nice. And it doesn't hurt to have a nice looking weapon. Once we're completely done with all the machine work on here, we're going to bead blast the frame, and we're going to polish the slide up a little bit, and we're going to re-blue it. So what we'll do is, step by step, as we do these different things to this weapon, we'll come out here with the camera and we'll film a little bit of the work going on. And now that you've seen it from the start, we'll show you the gun in process, and then we'll show you the gun when it's done. Okay, you can see now that we're just about ready to start working on the gun. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to detail strip the gun. Take every part out of it we can take out of it. While I was working on this, I didn't notice there was grip tape on the front strap. And what I thought I would do is, seeing as how there's already some striations here, we're going to give a shot at trying to checker this rather than put grip tape back on after we re-blue. So that's something else we're going to take a look at later on down the road. Well, let's get to the detail strip and see what we have inside. Okay, so much for a detail strip. Now that we have it apart, we're going to take a look at the parts in it to make sure they're alright. If there's anything broken or damaged, we'll replace that. And then we're going to clean them all so that we can work on them without getting too awful dirty. Okay, you can see now that we have everything out of the gun itself. The only thing left is the grip screw bushings, and we'll take those out later on. But as you can see, all the parts are out. What we're going to do now is we're going to look these parts over, see if there's any worn, cracked, or broken stuff. And we're going to clean it up a little bit. We don't want to have to be too dirty while we're working on these things, so. And the cleaner they are, the better you can look them over. So we'll take a little break here and be back in a minute. Okay, the easiest way I found to clean these is using brake cleaner. It's about the best thing I've found so far. It strips oil, grease, everything right off right now, and it dries within a few seconds, so everything's left clean and dry for you to work on. Fortunately, Bill takes good care of his weapons, so this one's not really too dirty. This will also take the grip tape residue off of here too. That can be pretty messy at times. Okay, I think what we're going to do is we're going to start by putting this in the milling machine, and we're going to mill out this portion of the grip frame right here. Like I showed you compared to the other whip, the other hand gun, we're going to raise this up so we can get our hand higher up onto the gun. Okay, what I think we're going to do first is we're going to put this in the milling machine, and we're going to mill this portion of the grip frame out right here. And we're going to raise this up, put more of a curve on here, so that the hand will slide up further into the gun, putting the gun lower in your hand, allowing the recoil to come back straight rather than flip up. Okay, here you can see I'm just about ready to start my first cut. I want to take this real slow and real easy, because these frames are hard. Okay, here you can see I've got everything just about set up. I've got a little bit of material removed right now, so we're going to go ahead and keep on cutting and see what happens. Okay, right here you can see the material that I removed, and I may end up taking off just a little bit more. It depends on what happens when I start extending these serrations up into this area. I may overrun a little bit, so I may want to put that back in the mill and clean that off just a little bit more. But you can see that although I didn't remove a lot of material, how much better the hand is going to fit on that weapon. And here's a comparison of the two grip frames before and after. And you notice doesn't look like I removed that much material, but it makes a big difference in the way you hold the weapon. Okay, now that we have this part done, what we're going to do is we're going to start working on these serrations. Now, as you can see, they go vertically up the grip, and I cannot for the life of me figure out how that's supposed to help you maintain control of the weapon. If Colt goes into trouble to put these on there, why don't they put them on horizontally? At least then maybe they might do some good. So what we're going to do, we're going to try to do some checkering using these existing striations. First thing you have to do is you have to determine how many lines of these there are per inch. And if you whip out your handy dandy little thread gauge, it'll tell you. Now this is 20 lines per inch thread gauge, and that appears to be pretty close to what it is, 20 lines per inch. So we're going to take our 20 line per inch checkering file, and we're going to extend these striations up here, extend them over to the sides, and then we're going to work them horizontally. Normally there's not enough material to go deep enough to get good sharp checkering at 20 lines per inch. The fewer the lines, the deeper you have to go to top the diamonds. Normally most checkers will do 30 or 40 lines per inch, so you don't have to go so deep. But because we're limited to the 20 already, we're going to try it and see what happens. Okay, here you can see I have my checkering file. This is 20 lines per inch. And if you notice, I have one side coated with chalk and the other side painted black. There's a reason for that. The reason we put the chalk on here is to help keep the chips from sticking to the file, which would tend to gouge up and ruin a good checkering. And number two, the reason we have this side painted black is we want to make sure we use the same side once we start our checkering. These files are real high quality, and not to say there's anything wrong with them, but it doesn't take very much of a difference between sides to screw up your checkering. So we're going to use one side and one side only, doing both the horizontal, or the vertical and the horizontal. We'll use one side. And also that keeps one side always sharp. If this side ever dulls out, say in the middle of a job, I'll always have a sharp side left over, rather than wear out both sides at the same time. Okay, as you can see, I've extended the serrations up into the middle area on about half of these threads. I'm working on the other half now. I don't think I'm going to go any further side to side. I'm going to leave the width I've got. As soon as I extend all these up and get them deepened and uniform, then I'm going to start my horizontal cuts. Okay, we've got most of our vertical lines cleaned up and cut. I'm pretty satisfied with that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start cutting our horizontal lines. This is a little bit tricky right here. What you need to do is place a straight edge across here so you can start your lines. Okay, as you can see, I've got my vertical serrations pretty much done. Now I want to start doing some horizontal. What I've done is I've placed a straight edge across here so that I can start my file square to make sure that the diamonds are going to be nice and square. All I have to do is start it down here, and then I'll pick up my lines as I move up the rip. All I need is this guide to start me. Then I'll remove that and do the rest by hand. Hopefully you can see that I've got my first set of lines across this way. And you can see the diamonds start to appear. Hopefully, when we get done, it's going to look pretty nice, and it's definitely going to be functional. It is really rough, which is what you want. Okay, as you can see, I've got all my horizontal lines cut. And now it's just a matter of rolling them over and including all this vertical, but try not to overrun on them. Okay, things are shaping up pretty nice right now. We've got all of our checkering in, and we've cleaned them all up, both horizontally and vertically. But now, I'll do some really fine detail work. And to do that, we're going to use what we call a pointing file. What that's going to do, I don't know if you can see this, but it's at the correct angle to match the checkering. And what we'll do is we'll go down each line to clean out any burrs or nicks or any bad pieces of checkering that are in there. We'll clean them up and point them up so they look nice and sharp. Well, this is an idea of what it's going to look like. But yeah, most of the diamonds topped out. There's a few flat ones on the sides, but overall it doesn't look too bad for a novice. This is the second or third time I've done this, so it's not as good as the professionals do, but I think it's going to be real functional. It's going to work real well on the gun, and it's going to work out better than grip tape. Especially, it'll look a lot better once we get it polished up and blued and cleaned up. But that's just a sample of what it turned out like. Okay, seeing as how we're on a roll here, we're going to give a shot at checkering the back of this slide. We're going to take a 40 line per inch file and we're going to serrate horizontal lines across the back of the slide. And we're also going to make sure we get this extractor face too. So this will all be serrated and look really sharp. What that'll do is cut down some of the glare and make it look pretty. And when you've got as much money invested in some of these custom guns as people have, it doesn't hurt to have them look nice too. Something else I noticed while working on this slide is this wear mark along the tunnel for the recoil spring. What's happening is that's rubbing on the inside of the frame. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to get this lined up so it won't rub on there anymore. Number one, it wears the bluing off for no reason. And number two, it has a tendency to slow the slide down, which we do not need. You can see some of the bluing wear on it. And you'll notice that I've already removed what was left of that front sight. Now there's a lot of epoxy or something here on the top of the slide. And once we get this cleaned off, it's going to look a lot better with just this little tiny hole showing than it is for that great big chunk of front sight that was on there. Okay, once again, we've got our slide secured in a vise. We're going to use the bottom of the rear sight as our straight edge to start our serrations. rather than 20 lines per inch that we used on the frame, we're going to use 40 lines per inch. And you'll notice that I also have this one colored black on one side and chalk on the other. So we're going to take a stab at seeing if we can make this look pretty sharp. As you can see, I've got my first set of lines across here. And what I'm going to do is I've started on both sides of the slide, but I'm going to continue down one side only. And then once I have one side completed, then I'll move over to the other side. Okay, as you can see, we've got this side done. Lines all the way across it. So what we're going to do now is take our file, pick up our lines from over here, and do this side. When we get all done, we'll have matching serrations across the back of the slide. Okay, we got her all pretty much checkered now. We'll see if we can't get a look at this. There we go. Turned out pretty well. When we buff that up and clean her up and get her reblued, it's going to look really sharp. Okay, what we've got now is fitting the slide, and you'll see this shiny spot along the tunnel guide here. Well, that's what's rubbing right inside the dust cover. And you'll notice that the slide won't even fall when I let go of it. It's rubbing that hard. You can almost see how rough that is. So what we're going to try to do now is we're going to see if we can't get this straightened out so it doesn't rub. What's happened is when they machine the slide rails and the slide itself, the rails have not been square. I'm not sure which, whether it be the frame or the slide, but actually the slide is trying to fit on the gun like this. So what we're going to have to do is see if we can't straighten things out a bit. Okay, you can see here that I've got some of the serrations cut on the front of the slide already. We're going to take a few more cuts on this side, then we'll have to move over and do the back side. But you can see that it'll look pretty good when it gets done. Okay. Well, I sure hope I didn't give away any trade secrets here, but that's all there is to it. Alright, well you can see we've got the serrations on the front of the slide completed now. And what we're going to do is one more little thing. We're going to lower this ejection port here. Now it's not too bad right now, but if sometime in the future the owner decides they want to put an optical sight on here, lowering this increases the ejection reliability. What we're going to do is we're going to try to we're going to lower this down to 400 thousandths. Right now it's let's see here. It's about 470 thousandths. So what we're going to do, we're going to take about 70 thousandths off of here and clean it up a little bit. So let's get started on that. Okay, we've got things pretty much set up here, and we're going to our first cut here. Okay, if you can see we've reduced this radius to a 3/8, lowered this down to 400 thousandths. So if anybody ever puts an optical sight on this gun, you're going to be all set to go. Okay, I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but this is the sear from the gun we're working on, and I'm not sure if you can really see it that clear, but that is just a plain ordinary stock sear. There's been nothing really done to it to make it anything more than a stock 45 you can buy anywhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to recut this sear, put the right angles on it, relieve it a little bit, and we'll see if we can't get a really good 2.5 pound trigger on this gun. Okay, you can see that I've got, okay, as you can see, I've got this sear set up in my fixture, and what we're going to do is we're going to stone this off and get a good sharp, clean, correct angle, and then we can go from there. First thing we got to do is put just a little oil on our stone. We don't want to remove too much material. All we just want to do is get the angle correct. So once I get a good flat shiny surface with no oddball shapes or marks on it, we'll be all set. I'm going to try to show you what I've done here. I don't know if you can see it, but I've started to make a good sharp clean edge here, and if it shows up right, you're going to be able to see the difference between what I had and what I have now. We're about halfway done with this edge. Go back and finish it up. Okay, now hopefully you'll be able to make this out, but if you notice this shiny edge right here, that now, see how nice and square and flat that is? That's a long way from what we started with. Once we get this good square clean surface, we know we're going to have a safe trigger, and now we've got a good basis to start doing our work with. You'll notice that while I'm working on this sear, I'm using a sear jig. This is something that's very important, very critical. You don't ever want to mess with sear angles unless you're working with a precise tool like this jig, so you can maintain your angle. If you change this angle the wrong way, you're going to have the hammer falling off the sear when you fire it. Hopefully being caught at the half cock notch. If not, it'll fall all the way forward and fire the weapon. You'll have a double, triple, or if you got an 8-round magazine, 8 in a row. If you polish the sear angle in the opposite direction, all you'll do is create a worse trigger pull than you had before. So you want to make sure you always use the proper equipment. Don't just try to eyeball it. You're just baited for trouble if you do. Okay, we pretty much got this sear angle done the way we want it. It's polished with a hard Arkansas stone. It's just a mirror polish. Should be no friction at all when that slips off, when the hammer slips off of there. Now we have this part done, let's move on to the hammer. Now this hammer looks like it's in really good shape. What we're going to do is we're just going to touch the base of the hammer right here. We're not going to touch the hooks right here. We're just going to even these up. And that's what's going to give us our nice, crisp let off. Won't be any creep, won't be any mushiness. Once you apply enough pressure, the hammer's going to snap right off. And that's the result of squaring the hammer hooks so that one is the same length as the other. Once again, just touch it. You don't want to remove any material. You want to smooth it. Be real careful. If you screw this up, the hammer's not going to cock at all. It'll just slip off the sear every time the slide cycles. You see we got the nice tight or nice sharp sear angles here. And we're done with this. Okay, the next item we're going to touch on is going to be the disconnector. This appears to be in fairly nice shape. There are a few scratches on it, wear marks from the weapon cycling, but all we're going to do is we're going to polish some of this up. See if we can't take some of these little marks off of here. Don't want to really remove metal. There we go. We're going to try and take some of those little marks out of there. Well, I'm not sure if we really took too many scratches out, but we sure put a nice polish on there. And that's all you want. You just want it to be very, very, very smooth. And a mirror finish on there. Okay, well now we're ready to put her back together and see what we have. Okay, something I noticed when I was putting this back together is the rear surface of this trigger stirrup could use a bit of polishing. There's some scratches. It's never been polished, never been anything, just installed in the gun. So what we're going to try to do is take out some of those tool marks, see if we can make it nice and shiny. Okay, a little stoning and polishing, and hopefully you can see there's quite a bit of difference in the surface that mates on this connector. Nice and polished, smooth like that. It's going to slide, not hang up, not drag. Makes all the difference in the world. Okay, let's put her back together and see what kind of a trigger pull we have. Remembering that when we first disassembled it, or prior to disassembly, we had 4.5 pounds. Okay, we've got the gun reassembled now, and it feels much, much better than it did before. Cleaner, snappier, real crisp. This is 4.5 pounds. We'll give this a try and see what happens. Whoop. Well. One, two, there's 3 pounds. We'll see what happens here. That'd be I'd say that's a light 3 right there. See what 2.5 does. Somewhere between 2.5 and 3 pounds. Now that ain't too shabby. Okay, we've reassembled the weapon, and we're ready to test the trigger to see what kind of a weight we have on it. Notice, or remember that we had a 4.5 pound pull prior to disassembly. So what you would try is see what we ended up with. 1, 2, 3. There's 4 pounds. Doesn't even begin to pick it up. There's 3.5. Not too much. We'll try it. There's 3. It's just starting to pick up now. There's 2.5. This is 2 3/4. So somewhere between 2 3/4 and 3 pounds. And it's a good, crisp, clean pull. There's no mush. There's no creep. Just a nice clean break. You've been watching me use the trigger pull weights to check the weight of the trigger pull. And this is something that I made up. It's a piece of steel and some 1 pound weights. But it's not just something I threw together. These weights have all been measured on an electronic scale to 1/100th of a gram. Conversion table says that there are 15.4 grains to a gram. So if these are weighed to within 1/100th of a gram, that would be 15/100ths of a grain. And they've all been weighed, all been calibrated. So if it says we have a 3 pound trigger pull on the weapon, you know it's exactly 3 pounds. Okay, now that we've completed the trigger job and we've got all the work done on this gun that we're going to do, short of bluing, we're going to do a little function testing to make sure that everything's going to work. Now after you've worked on a trigger and you have as light a pull as we have on this weapon, you got to check it to make sure it's going to function properly. You don't want it to go automatic, you don't want any slam fires, you don't want anything going wrong. So you just don't stuff 8 rounds in a magazine and go out and start banging away. What we're going to do is first we're going to put 1 round in the magazine. We'll put the magazine in the weapon, and while we're outside on the range pointing the weapon in a safe direction, we're going to drop the slide to make sure we don't get any hammer follow. If we have that, the trigger job is no good. We can start over again. We'll try that a couple of times to make sure that it doesn't follow through or slam fire. After we're sure that it's going to work properly, then we're going to try putting 2 rounds in the magazine. And we're going to drop the slide, charge the weapon. We'll pull the trigger and fire the first round and make sure that the second round feeds without another, once again, hammer follow or slam fire or any other kind of problem. We'll try that a few times to make sure that the weapon's going to function properly. Then we'll try 3 rounds and we'll try 4 rounds. One thing we do not want to happen is to have it go fully auto. We don't want any kind of problems like that. And that's how you check the weapon. Whenever you work with a trigger, hammer, sear, disconnector, whenever you work on any of those parts, you have to test the weapon afterwards. Okay, we're out here on the range. We've got 1 round loaded in the magazine. Now what we're going to do is charge the weapon, check the hammer, make sure we don't have any hammer follow, discharges, anything like that. Notice the hammer is still at full cock. And we're going to do this several times just to make sure that it's not going to follow through. Once again, it stayed at full cock. Looks pretty good so far. comes the fun part. You can really fire this thing. Once again, we've got 2 rounds. Charge the weapon, fire the first round, and see what happens. Hopefully, no hammer follow, no AD, accidental discharge. Everything should work fine. Okay, the weapon's sighted properly. The hammer's still at full top. Let's try it on. So put safety on. We're going to try 3 rounds this time. I think we got a good one here. Okay, as you can see, we've got the gun completed. The bluing's done, all the machine work is done. We haven't test fired it yet, but we've got it all back together. It looks really, really good. Once again, we get the serrations on the front of the slide. Then some serrating on the back of the slide. We also did the checkering and the relief cut underneath the trigger guard. We did a matte finish with the frame and polished the sides of the slide with a matte finish on the rest of it. So overall, it turned out pretty well. Tomorrow morning, we're going to take it out and shoot it. And this gun is going to be at the major pin matches around the country until it's sold. This is in 45. We're going to be at the East Coast Pin Challenge and the Amish Country Classic up in Pennsylvania. That's a week from now. And it might be at Second Chance. Might be at the Iowa Pin Nationals. Who knows? If you're in any of those events, be sure to stop by and look us up. We'd be glad to see you, talk to you. I want to thank Johnny for having this on the show. You all keep on shooting. Thank you.